Well, let's move right along now. And no, Omicron now having a global impact and uncertainty, once again, a reality for Aussie businesses. What will it mean for the employment landscape in 2022? Here to share his thoughts, AusBiz regular Joydeep Hoare from People and Culture Strategies joining us back on the program. Joydeep, fantastic to go and see you there. Omicron, this virus just keeps on and on and on. From a workplace perspective, what are some of the things out there that employers need to be aware of?
Yeah, good afternoon and compliments of the season to you and the team and all the listeners. Look, this just keeps on giving, doesn't it? And I think from an employer perspective, what has characterised the last 22 months has been just when you think that you are in a position where you can make some plans, whether that's going back to something that you used to do or were comfortable doing at some earlier stage of your corporate or organisational existence, or whether it's some innovation that you want to introduce because of some learnings you've had over the last particular period, there are going to be some serious spanners thrown in the works, and the Omicron is the latest one. I think for a lot of employers, this now represents, while in some ways the timing is a little bit convenient with a lot of organisations moving to their usual annual shutdown, but there's so much uncertainty. Debates such as whether employees are going to be able to return to the workplace, and if so, whether it's going to be on a hybrid working model, or for a lot of organisations bringing them back full time. All of this has now been set back to ground zero in some ways because of the uncertainty, and whether organisations replicate what the governments in some quarters are telling them to do and live with it and adjust through your vaccinations policies and whatever else. I don't think there are a lot of employers who are going to do that. So a lot of uncertainty, a lot of challenges, and be prepared for more.
Those challenges, what are some of the ones that you anticipate that will come from this next wave and the potential workplace changes that will have to be brought about?
So I think the first one is going to be how does an employer deal with a situation where there could be an outbreak within their organisation if the numbers are as significant as what we are seeing, the likelihood of this impacting, and we're seeing it already happen a lot, that we're seeing far more organisations who have now had a direct touch point of a staff member who has tested positive in the last month than has been the case, at least from our firm's experience, in the last 2 years. So how do you deal with that? What are your exposures? What are your obligations? You've got to notify certain people, you've got to notify certain authorities. What are you going to do in relation to your staff? Are you just going to say, well, look, let's go through the checklist and see whether you're a close contact or a casual contact or low risk? Are you going to just be sending people home? Do you still have to do your deep cleaning? By far and away, that's the biggest challenge that organisations have to get comfortable with and have the ability to move into that action mode straight away. Then there are the bigger picture issues around, well, what's the prevention piece? A lot of organisations have mandated vaccinations, a lot haven't. A lot are still leaving it up to choice. Organisations need to have that debate on an ongoing basis and have to consider that in the context of the ongoing advice, for example, in relation to boosters. And the third category is what does this mean for organisations in terms of where their people are going to work? What are they going to be sending their people to in terms of visiting client sites, customer sites, suppliers, premises, all of those kinds of things? Does that heighten the risk for the employer and the individuals? Is this something that means that people are going to now have to, once again, work from home for longer periods of time? These are all the kinds of things that employers are going to be really challenged by, and the biggest issue I think for employers is they will not get the opportunity to have a lead up to the pitch on this. They have to be ready to go, I would say, going in to this Christmas break period, to the extent that is going to be fairly common across organisations, so that they have their strategy in relation to these matters down pat come the beginning of 22.
What about from the worker side of the equation? We've heard the term coined the Great Resignation, more so in the United States than here. But how is that likely to play out when it comes to the actual staffing? What trends do you expect to see next year?
One of the things that I've commented on in a few different contexts is that this issue of the Great Resignation, and yes, it is sort of numerically more pronounced in the US, but it is absolutely the case that's been the experience of employers already here in Australia, and all of the predictions from those who work in the recruitment and headhunting space are that this is something that will continue in 22. If you think about why this is happening, A lot of it is a response to the uncertainty. A lot of it is the frustration that employees are feeling. For example, things such as lockdowns, inability to travel, perceived inability to go about people's normal lives. They're channeling those frustrations into what they do in relation to their career and their workplace. Seeing them resign, seeing them explore opportunities, seeing them take long breaks, seeing them relocate to somewhere if they're going to be working from home that's not a metropolitan area. So the reality is, if we accept that this is not a closed issue at all, and that Omicron just represents the latest evolution of the challenge, and it will not be the last one, employers must assume that the numbers of people who are testing the market or exploring resignation or feeling that angst is going to continue, and if anything, it's actually going to be exacerbated as there is a new iteration every couple of weeks or even more frequently than that.
Jordan, just to finish off, we've covered off some pretty big areas to be focused on next year. Is there anything else out there that employers or staff need to be aware about in 2022? What are some of the things that beneath the surface are likely to come to the fore?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you know, we've talked so much throughout the course of this year about vaccinations and working from home and the response to the pandemic and all of that. But the reality is that in the grand scheme of the employer-worker relationship, this still only represents a very small part of it. People are expecting and will have every right to expect that their employer continues to treat them well, remuneration, reward, recognition, incentivation, good work opportunities, meaningful relationships between managers and people who they are managing. All of this is the mainstay of the employment relationship. And my strongest counsel to certainly any employers out there, but to workers as well, don't forget that that's what makes or breaks the quality of a working relationship. And yes, there's a lot of noise and a lot of these other issues that have to be addressed, and they're very important. But the fundamentals of what maintains a good and effective and strong employment relationship have not changed in centuries, and they're not going to change in the course of 2022. Don't forget that. Communicate well, maintain your agility, understand what makes you people tick, and all of that will place everyone in a stronger position.